Poumai Naga Folktales, story about Proupuzhi, the Poumai legends. There was a man named Proupuzhi. From the time he was in his mother's womb, his nature was quite different from that of ordinary human beings. When his mother went out to fetch water, the baby in her womb remained calm and quiet. However, the moment she sat near the fire, stirring the mixture for making wine, the baby would become agitated and restless in the womb. The parents eagerly awaited the day he would be born, curious to see what kind of person he would become. When the baby was born, he coughed and cleared his throat like an adult, and his entire body was covered in hair. When he was bathed in warm water, he cried hysterically, but when bathed in cold water, he remained calm and enjoyed it. Similarly, when the cradle was placed near the hearth, the baby cried, but when placed in a cool spot near the water storage, he slept peacefully. Furthermore, he resisted being fed with warm rice, but ate comfortably when fed with chewed cold rice. Thus, the child grew up exhibiting a very unique and peculiar character. As the child grew older, his toys were a knife and a spear. He always played with his father's knife and spear. One day, his father asked him, "What shall I buy for your next toy?" Proupuzhi, a young Poumai boy, expressed a strong desire to own a knife and a spear. In those days, iron was scarce and expensive, making such possessions rare. They were often exchanged for valuable livestock like cows and buffaloes. Proupuzhi grew into a formidable warrior, skilled in combat tactics. He was also deeply spiritual, believing in the significance of dreams and omens. Before embarking on any hunting or warfare, he would consult dreams and omens, sapayu, often seeking guidance through the pyn, a soft bamboo used for divination. Nature favored Proupuzhi with a special mark, a piece of hair in the middle of his left hand. When this hair grew long, it was believed to bring him good luck, prompting him to venture out for his adventurous pursuits. According to legend, Proupuzhi lived in Makrafu, Makhel, before migrating to Sufu, Suranamai. From there, he moved on to Fuba the Fam, through Bud, place of the moon. This place earned its name due to a remarkable event. Proupuzhi chased a ray, wild cock, that carried the moon, a precious stone, in its beak. After a relentless pursuit across 7 hills, he finally caught the wild cock on the 7th hill. The place is also known as Prufu. However, after obtaining the moon, it became known as Thrubu, a name that persists to this day. Proupuzhi and his descendants, who called themselves Poumai, resided there for a time. However, Proupuzhi felt the need to expand his territory. He consulted a fortune-telling grandmother, seeking her guidance. When he expressed his desire to move to a new land, she inquired about his intended direction. Proupuzhi replied that he wanted to move towards the east. After a moment of reflection, the grandmother consulted the spirits and shared a cautionary message. She advised him against moving east, warning him that he would encounter numerous difficulties if he chose to go, and sufferings. "You will meet a lot of wild animals and dangerous insects." Proupuzhi replied, "Grandma, if it's only wild animals and insects, I shall go. I shall meet and fight these wild animals." His grandma said, "You may go if you desire. Take this egg along with you, and watch out if it hatches. Once you have settled, come back and tell us about your adventure." And so he left. As he carried the egg along with him, it hatched, and later, it grew into a big cock, which was a good omen. Proupuzhi went back and gave it to the fortune-teller grandmother. The grandmother was overjoyed and blessed him profusely. Proupuzhi was a great hunter and warrior. He killed many dangerous wild animals. Once there lived a huge python between the 2 mountains, Hrünü and Kucharou. It moved with the warmth of the sun. When the morning sun shone on one hill, it was there, and in the evening it went to the other mountain to get the evening sun. The people were frightened to pass through the mountains, so they approached Proupuzhi to help them kill the python. Proupuzhi began to prepare for the adventure. He carefully observed the path the python traveled, and then he dug 7 bunkers along the same path for himself to hide. He then whetted and brandished his spear. To test the sharpness of his spear, he would throw the spear on the thatch of the house, and if it sliced the thatch grass neatly, he would know that it was ready for the task. When he found a favorable omen, Sabpayu, he began his mission. He covered the 7 bunkers that he had dug with leaves and branches and hid under them, waiting for the python to come along that way. When he saw the python sliding down, he shot it on the way. He quietly and slowly impaled the python with his sharp spear. The spear was so sharp that the python did not realize its stomach was slit through. However, a lot of blood flowed, and when the first bunker was filled with blood, Proupuzhi shifted to the next and the next, till all the 7 bunkers were overflowing with the python's blood. This shows how huge the size of the python was. Then in the end, as the python lost its balance, it dashed down all the trees nearby. Proupuzhi cut the python and piled up the flesh in stacks. That is how the Poumai people were saved from the danger of this frightening python. In the village, there was a very rich man named Shitopumyashi who owned many buffaloes. Although the animals were very productive, their number never reached 100 in total. Some of them would always disappear. So, he decided to look after the cattle himself and to find out the cause of this disappearance. He even slept in the jungle to keep watch over his cattle. One day, he met a man named Jalateo, a lycanthrope who sometimes turned into an animal and at other times into a human being. Lycanthropy is the act of shifting between the form of a human being and a wolf or bear or tiger, etc. Shitopumyashi asked, "What are you looking for?" "My buffalo is lost, so I have come in search of it," Jalateo replied. "Then, what does your buffalo look like?" Shitopumyashi asked. "Does it have teeth on both the upper and lower jaws, or only on one of the jaws?" Jalateo answered, "My buffalo has teeth on both the upper and lower jaws." He did not know the nature of the buffalo's dental growth. Shitopumyashi told him, Then, these buffaloes of mine have teeth only on the lower jaw. You may find it out for yourself." Jalateo, "This does not have teeth on the upper jaw, this also, and so is this." "Oh, these are not my buffaloes." So saying, Jalateo went away defeated. Shitopumyashi had a strong suspicion about him, and so he approached Proupuzhi, told him about Jalateo, and requested him to get rid of him. "Whenever the number of my buffaloes is about to reach 100, this Jalateo snatches them away and eats them. So please help me to get rid of him." Proupuzhi decided to spy on him, and he saw Jalateo actually stealing the buffaloes. After many days of preparation, he waited for a good omen to get rid of him. One day, he followed him quietly and reached Rei or Pabvi, where Jalateo entered a cave. The cave was situated on a high cliff, full of rocks. There were a lot of plants called layu belonging to the bamboo family. The way to the cave was a thick forest, and therefore, he marked the way by breaking the layu, so that he would not miss the way while returning. He saw Jalateo drag the buffalo all along and throw it into the cave with a big thud. Then he sang the secret song to his wives inside the cave. "Chisho polape, pamatai pe lai lai, pass the ladder, send it backward, please. So Rimai na may be an enemy. So Rimai mohi, ka pu zibi, not enemies but your friend." After being confirmed that he was the husband, his wives dropped down the ladder and Jalateo climbed it and entered the cave. Meanwhile, Proupuzhi was intently listening and learning the code song. When, after some time, Jalateo went out, Proupuzhi went near the cave and sang the code song, asking to send down the ladder. He carefully repeated the song that he had learned. "Chisho polape, pamatai pe lai lai. So Rimai na, so Rimai mobi, ka pu zihi." The imitation was so perfect that the wives inside the cave unhesitatingly passed down the ladder. Proupuzhi climbed to the cave, removed the ladder, and entered the cave. There inside he saw 2 women. One was boiling rice powder for brewing rice beer, and the other was leaning on the wall as she was bearing the weight of late pregnancy. He threw his lance at both of them and killed them. The pregnant woman carried twin boys in her womb. They say that if they were to be born, the whole Poumai land would have been in danger. After killing the 2 women, he waited for Jalateo. Jalateo brought some young game and threw them into the cave and sang the code song. "Chisho polape, pamatai pe lai lai." But there was no reply, so he sang once again. But still there was no reply. This disturbed him, and he sang once more but still got no response. He felt terrible. He understood that someone had entered and killed both his wives. Jalapeno sadly went away, never to return. Proupuzhi tried to track him, but Jalapeno disappeared from the neighborhood and vicinity of the Poumai land, never to appear again. In the distant villages like Zhamai, hunters who injured animals would often die. People who found these injured animals would kill them and send a piece of meat to the hunter who had injured the animal. This custom is still practiced today. The person who first shoots the game receives the head or the best share. If a hunting dog kills the game, it gets the head. The Hotichari. When the Poumai forefathers first settled in Fuba, the fam, through Bu, moon place, a very dangerous Hotichari, snake, resided in the land of Sufu. The Hotichari was not very long, but it crowed occasionally like a hen. When people went to the fields, it attacked them on their heads, causing death. This place was called Rapero, Napiro, which means frightened to be the first and frightened to be the last. The Hotichari always targeted the crown of the head. When Proupuzhi was in Thrubu or Prupufi, the people of Sufu requested his help to kill the dangerous snake. He spied on the snake's whereabouts and dug a bunker to hide in. When he was confident about the snake's movements, he hid inside the bunker and covered it tightly with wood, leaving only a small opening to stick out his spear. When the Hotichari approached, he made a noise and put out his glistening spear. The snake flew towards the glittering spear to attack, but unfortunately impaled itself and died. Thus, Proupuzhi, the legendary figure, helped the people of Sufu. The gorilla couple. Long ago, a gorilla couple was spotted frequenting the Barak River/Vuriai. They would go up and down the river fishing and searching for crabs. As they moved, the male would shout "Ka," and the female would reply "Ka." If they sighted any human beings, they would chase and throttle them to death. It is said that gorillas are usually left-handed and are known for their strength. They were such a danger to human beings that Proupuzhi thought of different ways to kill them. He spotted a big hollow oak where he could enter and be safe from the clutches of the gorillas. One day he saw the gorillas coming upstream hunting and eating crabs. Proupuzhi called out to them. The gorillas turned round and came running towards Proupuzhi. Proupuzhi ran towards the hollow oak and hid inside. The gorillas tried to catch him and wrestled with the tree. When the she-gorilla tried to pull the tree down, Proupuzhi pierced her with his spear and killed her. The he-gorilla, looking at his fallen partner, became furious and wild. He began to use all his force in slapping and scratching the tree. The gorilla howled and screamed and bellowed, but could not fell the tree. Neither could it kill Proupuzhi, though he did get terribly hurt. At last the gorilla was exhausted and went away crying, not to be seen any more in the Poumai land. A special thank you to Paul Punii for his dedication to preserving our cultural heritage. By documenting and writing down the old Poumai stories, he has ensured that these valuable tales will continue to be shared and appreciated for generations to come.